Hello YouTube, this is Mahadev the Thunder Wizard. Sorry I got on here a little late. I got so involved in what I was going to talk about. I was making videos and graphics. And this is a very, very special video, even though I'm sitting here picking my teeth because I had to eat something, so I shoved a Cliff Bar down my throat. Okay, I think I'm ready. This is possibly the most sacred video I've ever made. I've just become aware that you're the first to hear of it as far as I know, but I've just become aware of the actual significance of the HUUL breath and the meaning of the sound, the power of the sound, and more importantly, what's coming next. And I'm just now putting all this together, and the enormity of it and the sanctity of it has hit me very hard just in the past few minutes as I burp. So I'm going to be sharing that with you. I'm also going to be sharing with you, if not in this video, you'll forgive me if I string it out, but I'm going to be sharing with you our mother's new name. She has a name that she's had from the beginning of her birth and existence, and she is about to change her name. And remember this, when the event comes, when I believe it's going to be a wave that will come from the galactic center. When that wave, people have called it the event, they've called it the solar flash, they've called it all kinds of things. But when the ascension event hits, which I believe is going to be very soon, you can be the first people on earth to know her new name, because that's when the universe will be giving her a new name and a new function. So before we get into that, we're going to talk about what her name has been and what it means, and I'm going to be talking to you about the linguistics of it, not just the sound, but actually going back to the original root sounds, which I believe were language has been a gift, and language has been magical, and the original languages that were given to human beings in the very beginning of our evolution were actually magical things that we used in the beginning to manifest reality. And so we are going to find out the power of her name, where it came from, and what it actually means. So, as you know, I have been sharing with you something called the HUUL breath. You can go search that. I've just put it up in the chat there. And that is spelled HUUL. HUUL. If you haven't seen it before, just literally Google HUUL breath. And there will probably be a couple of videos of mine. I don't know who else has made videos about it since then. But a couple of videos of mine, and one of them is going over the runes themselves, which you just saw here in this video that we started off with. Hagalaz, Uruj, Laguj. Okay, so we've talked about that quite a lot, but I'm going to get into it even more deeply. So let me just bring up the reason why I'm late is because I was trying to upload the video, but let's look at the runes first. So let me just upload that picture here very quickly. Just put this together today. I think the picture that I used for this, I don't know. I have to find out who made this picture, where it came from. If anybody knows, let me know, because we need to give this person. Oh, all right. That's just the Latin one, so we can start. We can keep that one there, and then we'll get the runes one up as well. I'd love to know who made that picture, because it'd be interesting. If this catches on, then this will be a very famous photo. Okay, HUUL runes, let's see. Is that it? Might be that. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So, looking at this picture, maybe I can share the screen with my mother here. Looking at this picture here, what I love about the picture is, first, let me explain to you what your world is, because this new information is extremely important. And my friends have been showing me a lot of stuff which I haven't understood. I'm now understanding. I have to give it time. It takes time for me to be able to absorb what they're showing me and then put meaning to it. But now I get it. So remember, let me get something round, a sphere that we can use. So if you remember that I've been really obsessed with multiple dimensions and higher dimensions and those kinds of things, and especially physics. And because I have been interacting with my 5D and above friends, and the limitations that I'm running into are actually limitations of physics. The limitations when beings from higher dimensions interact with lower dimensional beings, there are blocks. And so it takes a lot of work to understand. If they don't come down into 3D and sit down and talk to you in 3D language, if they're interacting with you from higher dimensions, it can be a very challenging experience, and that has to do with the limitations between interactions between higher dimensions. So, I've been obsessed with physics and obsessed with dimensions and how they all work, because to be honest, that's what's given me my sanity. The one thing that really helped me be sane was listening to Carl Sagan talk about what happens when a three-dimensional being tries to talk to a two-dimensional being. And what ends up happening is the two-dimensional being that can't see or experience the 3D being. But if the 3D being says, "Hello, two-dimensional being," the two-dimensional being will feel that greeting, won't hear it in a voice in the room. It will come from inside of him. And it will explode from inside of him and then fill the whole room. And when I first heard that, I actually kind of wept for a couple of seconds, because it was such a relief, because, oh my God, I'm not crazy. I actually am communicating with higher dimensional beings. And this dead physicist is explaining it to me in a way that makes sense because that's been my physical reality. How he knows that from mathematics, I don't know, but it's beautiful and wonderful. So what physics has been saying, some physics anyway, is saying that three-dimensional reality is actually just a projection from 5D onto the surface of 5D. So in other words, sitting on the surface of 5D is a 3D projection, which is our reality. Bear in mind, again, put that aside for a second, bear in mind that one of the main ways that 5D and above objects will manifest in 3 dimensions is as a sphere. Because that's 3 dimensions is a sphere. We talk about it in terms of a box. When we create a 3D, box, that helps us understand it, but that's not really what it is. It's actually a sphere. It's a 3-dimensional sphere. So if some object from a higher dimension wants to come into 3D, the first thing that'll happen is it'll start as a small little sphere and it'll grow and grow and grow. And that will be actually a much larger object coming into 3 dimensions. And whoever is on the other side of that, sticking their finger into 3D, they can decide how big or how small the object will look. So they can decide if when you've had orbs, if you've had any experience with higher dimensional beings and orbs, you've seen orbs. This is what happens 95% of the time when people have experiences with, quote, ETs, extraterrestrials. They see these orbs of light shooting through the sky, morphing. The reason why those lights morph, they turn into 3, or they're small and then they're big, is because it's really not an orb. I don't know what it is, but it's something in 5D that's just poking into 3D. And so as it does, it's going to show up seemingly in the middle of the room. This sphere will appear. And they can control how big or small that is depending on how deep into 3D they want to go. So here's a good way of describing it. So here's a 3-dimensional sphere, right? This is the Earth. So that means that the Earth, imagine this sphere growing and shrinking. That's something from higher dimensions coming into 3D. So let's imagine this is Earth seemingly floating around in space. What that means is that this sphere, this is only the tip of the iceberg. This object is coming from 5D and it manifests into 3D in whatever size, is determined. So whatever that object is, there's a whole lot more to it coming from a higher dimension. I'm not a sphere, you're not a sphere, my mouse is not a sphere. It's because we are a 3-dimensional object in 3D. Right? So this is Earth, and she is a higher dimensional being who is coming into 3-dimensional space. As it turns out, we live on the surface of this object that is merely a small manifestation of a much larger being in a higher dimension. We live on the surface of that. All right, so now imagine a 2-dimensional being. So, right, a 2-dimensional being is like a piece of paper. This is 2 dimensions. So imagine somebody living, a 2-dimensional being living within this piece of paper, right? I can take this piece of paper and wrap it around Imagine, it wrapping around the apple here. And the two-dimensional being, lives in this two-dimensional space, and it's going to walk a straight line. It's going to walk a straight line. Now, because it is small, it thinks that it's on a flat two-dimensional surface. So it's small enough that even though the two-dimensional surface is curved around this three-dimensional object, that little two-dimensional being will just walk along and think he's on a flat surface. And if he keeps going straight, he's eventually going to come all the way back up and end up where he started, which will freak him out. He won't understand how the hell that just happened. He's been going straight the whole time. He hasn't turned around. How did he end up back where he started? That's because he can't see or even comprehend a three-dimensional object, because he lives in a two-dimensional plane. So now imagine that we live in a three-dimensional reality. This is, by the way, why flat earthers can't comprehend three dimensions, because we're so small that living on this thing, it looks like 2D. But we are 3D. So we're a three-dimensional being that lives on the surface of a three-dimensional object that's actually a 5 or higher dimensional being that's just simply poking into 3D space. And 3D space is nothing more than a projection on the surface of 5 dimensions. In the same way that a two-dimensional being on this piece of paper would be living on the surface of a three-dimensional surface and have no clue what the three-dimensional surface is like. That's what it's like for us. We are three-dimensional beings. We are living on the surface of a three-dimensional object that is actually a 5-dimensional being just poking her head into 3 dimensions. Now, I'm going to take it further than that. Here's what I've learned from my excursions into the universe, interacting with other planets, as well as this planet. My shamanic excursions. That my friends, by the way, are teaching me how to do. This isn't something I knew how to do before, but I do now, because they've been teaching me. And by the way, they can teach you too. I'm nothing special. You can do the exact same thing I'm doing, just do your own CE5 meditations, and they'll teach you at whatever level you want, whatever you want. This is the stuff that I'm interested in, so they teach me what I want to learn. What was I saying? So all of the other planets, as you've noticed, as well as the stars, guess what? They are spheres. So that tells you that these are also beings that are simply poking their head into 3-dimensional space. And however big or small the planet is depends on, however big or small they want to be in 3-dimensional space. So imagine our universe like this 2D paper. But of course it's 3 dimensions, right? Now imagine our 3-dimensional universe wrapped around a 5-dimensional object. We can't imagine a 5-dimensional object, but you can get it. This is 3D, this is 5D. Our universe is this paper wrapped around a 5-dimensional object. We have no idea what the 5D is like, but we're living on top of it. We can't go to 5D because we're only 3D, but 5D can come to 3D whenever it wants. You with me? So what I've learned through my excursions is that the Earth herself is choosing to manifest her expression, her art, which is the Earth, the grass, the trees, the clouds, the ocean, the mountains, the animals. All of that is her art form that she loves. I mean, she's pouring her soul and her heart into this beautiful piece of art that she's manifesting into the 3rd dimension. Specifically, though, her manifestation is a three-dimensional art. She specializes in making three-dimensional objects beautiful. And she specializes in creating life in 3 dimensions. That's what I'm really loving about this picture here, that she's looking at. She isn't just that sphere that she's holding on to. She is that. But she's also above and behind it, looking at it and experiencing it and loving it and enjoying it. And that is her specialty. Now, I don't know what other dimensional pieces of art she's making as well. You know, Sasquatch seems to have no problem coming in and out of 3 and 5D, so there might be a 5D Earth, a 9D Earth as well. But in terms of our 3D physical experience of the Earth that she creates, the name of that is HUUL. I'll talk to you about that in a second. The other planets, Jupiter is not a 3-dimensional being. Like, we can look at the planet Jupiter and we can see it as a 3-dimensional object, but Jupiter is not 3-dimensional. Neither is Saturn. Mars, I haven't explored Mars a whole heck of a lot, but Mars might be a 3D expression. You know, Mercury might be a 2D or a 3D expression. But in terms of creating life, this is the name of this planet that we're on. And as I said earlier, I'm going to share it with you. Maybe I'll share it with you in the end of this video, but I'll definitely share it with you in an upcoming video. Her new name, which is really also wonderful and beautiful. And this is why the HUUL breath is a mantra. So if you don't know, if you haven't heard the history of where this mantra came from, this was probably 12 years ago, and I was coming to the end of my training with my Maoshan teacher. And we had run into a problem. It was actually a karmic ending, a karmic shift, and we ended up parting ways and leaving me hanging. I mean, I had learned everything that he had to teach me, but in terms of being able to go to his teachers and above, because of, you know, he and I had some political infighting disagreements, and he broke off all contact with me, which was the best thing for me. But at the time, I was very upset because I wanted to learn more. I wanted to master even more. As it turns out, this was the best way. I've mastered far more on my own after learning everything he gave me than if I had stayed with him. But I was mixing different traditions. I was doing the Maoshan practice and the meditations that I was learning, and I was trying a bunch of other high-level practices. And without knowing the specifics of how they interacted, I ended up giving myself energy sickness, having different energy vibrations crashing into each other inside of my body. And I was in a lot of physical pain, and I was in trouble. And I simply sat down and meditated, and I'd never done this before. It was just out of desperation. This is how I learn. I learn out of desperation more than anything else. And out of desperation, I just closed my eyes and I said, if there are any ascended masters out there who want to help me, I need a 1-syllable breath sound to heal and balance my energy. And very faintly in the background, I saw the HUUL breath, and I've showed it to you with the snow falling down and going into the heart center and going all the way down into the earth. All of that I've shared with you, that came to me in just a very short experience, and it was so faint in the back of my mind, I almost said, okay, I'm just making that up. And I didn't. I was so desperate, I listened to it, and then I tried it. And as soon as I did the breath the way that I've taught you how to do it, my energy body completely grounded and healed itself instantly. I went, holy crap, this is real. And I experimented with it for a long time, and then I taught it to people, and I watched what happened to them, and then I did some research, and I found out that this was actually the name of our Mother Earth. And I first was trying to figure it out because I figured, well, this came from ascended masters. So I assumed it was either a Taoist master or a Vedic master. So I was looking in both of those traditions for this sound. And I could find the first syllable, HU. I could find that in multiple traditions. And that's always associated with Earth. So I went, okay, I've got that part. But what is the last part? What is the other elongated U and the L sound? What the heck is that all about? I know what the runes mean, so I know what the energy is associated with, but I don't know where this is coming from. And I tried to find it, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And one day, I think this was back before the internet died. As you know, there's a theory out there that the internet is actually dead. That we're dealing with just like just the first paper results of an internet. But I typed in HUL. So I said maybe there's something, and I didn't put any. I just typed in HUL, and the first thing that popped up was Mother Hulda, and that was one of her names, HUUL. Hulda was sort of like the feminine ending of that, and I went, oh my God, I found it. And then I researched it and found out that she was an ancient earth goddess of Europe that might have been, according to experts at that time, they were thinking this might even be go beyond back in history before the different races and language, that this might be something that was a prehistoric name that was used. That was, they didn't say that specifically, but that was kind of the feeling of it. And then I did some meditations, and I went deep into meditation, and I had this shamanic experience where I was taken back 30,000 years into those caves in Europe where our ancestors, created those cave paintings, and they were chanting this. They were chanting it in the cave, and I knew exactly what they were doing, that they were creating the earth with Mother Earth. And I've talked about this before, but there's one cave in particular, the oldest one, that doesn't have any depictions of human beings on it. All of the cave paintings are of animals. And when you go deeper and deeper into the cave, there's one stalactite. I think that's the one that comes from the top, stalactite. One stalactite there which has this picture of a half human, half cow, something like that. And that's the closest they came, and that was obviously the mother goddess figure. And I became aware that was a very powerful place, which, by the way, has been covered over for 25,000 years. Sometime in the past 10 years, actually somebody found it as a result of some kind of rock slide. It had been covered over with a rock slide for 25,000 years, and then the rock slide shifted, and the guy found his way in there. And that's because Mother Earth was waking up, literally waking up, getting ready for this event. The point is that this sound actually is the creation, the manifestation of 3D life. And the earth is known throughout the universe. She is known as the mistress of creating 3D life. As I said, the other planets that don't have any life on them aren't 3D planets. They have life on other dimensions that we can't see. We go, we land on whatever it is. We try and land on Jupiter. We just a bunch of gas and stuff like that. We don't realize that Jupiter is not a 3D planet. And there are beings that live on all the planets. And all of the planets are people. All of the planets are beings. Very powerful beings. There's a reason why our ancestors worship them as gods. And the planets in our solar system, including our sun, which is a very powerful higher dimensional being as well, as are all of the stars. But all of the planets in our solar system are focused on the three-dimensional life. They all have a part in projecting their powers into creating three-dimensional life. But our Mother Earth is the mother. She is the sole creatrix of it. So the word earth, comes from the Indo-European root. I'm going to put this i.e. Indo-European root. The Indo-European root is which means soil. That's not what she is. That's what's on. That would be like calling human beings skin. That's just the outer covering of us, is the skin. The soil is her outer covering. That's not who she is. That's our ancestors, talked about earth because they talked about, planting. That was important to them. But to understand what this is, now bear in mind, I didn't know any of this when this was given to me. I know what the runes of it are. Hagalaj, Uruj, Laguj. I know what the runes are. Hagalaj is healing, and it can also be. It means hail. Literally means hailstone, but it means healing. It means moisture falling down. And by the way, if it weren't for all of the snow that falls on the ground every winter, rivers wouldn't have any water, and the earth wouldn't have anything to nourish itself. So Haga, hail, is the moisture that comes from the sky, from the mother, to nourish all of the plants and all of the beings. Uruj is a descending energy, and this goes back to even the rune poems called Uruj, a descending power. So this is moisture coming down, and the oo sound is descending power. There's actually fire in there as well. So that first HU in Indo-European equals Ku. Ku is the interrogative. And it is the what is that? That's not what I want. The interrogative. So Ku is the Indo-European pronunciation of Hu. We can see this when we look at Latin versus English, for instance. So the English word what, which would really be, if I spelled that in runes, it would be huat. Right? Huat is a combination of hu plus at. In the Latin, which is another Indo-European language, which is more closely related to Sanskrit, the Latin is Ku Od. Can you see how that's similar? In English, it's pronounced what. In Latin, it's quod. It's the same word. It is the exact same word, a different accent. It's the only difference between a lot of these Indo-European words. The exact same word, a little different accent. What? Quod? What? Quod? Same word. So the Indo-European interrogative root ku, I am here to tell you. Now, a lot of people aren't going to like this. Probably a lot of native, Sanskrit language derived people aren't going to like this. People who, speak Hindi and other languages, maybe even like people Latin and other languages like that, aren't going to like what I'm about to say. But I have always had this feeling that the Norse religion, which is really the Germanic religion, actually is an older version of the Indo-European religion, which we see in the Vedic tradition, we see in the Greek tradition, and the Latin tradition. The Roman tradition, the Greek tradition, the Sanskrit tradition, the Vedic. And it is my belief that and English, as it turns out, I believe holds some of the most ancient pronunciations of this ancient first language. At least one of the first languages humans were ever given. So I believe that the original pronunciation for the interrogative root was not ku, but hu. One of the reasons I believe that, I found out something very interesting, which was that an archaeologist found, I believe, the oldest human remains, modern human remains, in the northern hemisphere, and I think it's 35,000 years old or something. The DNA, the oldest DNA that's human DNA, modern human DNA that's been sequenced, is actually, and then they tried to see which racial group was most closely associated with the oldest, human DNA remains that they could find. And what they found was that the Norse, people in Scandinavia, Scandinavian people are the most DNA matched to the oldest modern humans, at least in the northern hemisphere. So what I believe that means is that we're looking at, that could have been a cradle for the earliest language and the earliest religion, at least in that part of the world. Now, there's all kinds of racial problems, which I'm not going to get into, based on the English. The word Indo-European is a racist. It's a racist term associated with the language, because back in the 1700s, the British, were looking at ancient Vedic Sanskrit, scriptures, and they were going, well, that looks a lot like Latin and Greek and German and English. Oh, they must be descended from us. And instead of looking at that from, not that that's right or wrong, instead of looking at that purely from a scientific point of view, they used that as a way to make themselves superior, and that's where the whole Aryan race nonsense came from. Because they started saying, oh, we're the Aryan race. That's where the whole blonde-haired, blue-eyed thing got associated with the Aryan race, which is false, by the way. But it is true that the people who ended up becoming the people that are now Hindus, they are descended from a people who came into that region from someplace farther north, not Western Europe. But what did happen is we call them the Yamnaya now. The Yamnaya were people who spoke one of these older Indo-European root languages. And they spread out all over the northern hemisphere. And one of the places they interbred was in northwestern Europe. And there was a group of people there who were indigenous that lived in that very cold place for, 50,000 years almost. And they developed a survival mechanism for that region, which was light hair, light eyes, light skin. And so the blonde-haired, blue-eyed people are not the Aryans, they're actually the indigenous hunter-gatherers of that area of northwestern Europe. And so these Yamnaya came in, they interbred with those, and so that's why you still have a lot of blonde-haired, blue-eyed people in northwestern Europe, because that's the part of them that is descended from the original hunter-gatherers that interbred with those first Indo-European warriors. I am saying, I think it's possible that the first pronunciation of that interrogative was not ku, but hu. And because those Germanic, who ended up becoming the Germanic people, that hybrid race of Yamnaya with blonde-haired, blue-eyed hunter-gatherers, they created what we now call the Proto-Germanic language, the Proto-Germanic religion. I'm saying that they're holding on to an older, perhaps even more ancient version of the original Indo-European. Because what ended up happening is the people who ended up invading into Iran and India actually were a second wave. The first wave went through, they went into Western Europe, they interbred, and then some of those Northwestern European Yamnaya then went down and interbred with others and then went down into India. So by the time the Aryans did go into India, they were not blonde-haired, blue-eyed. There were some that were, obviously, but they were olive-skinned, dark-haired people with brown eyes and big noses. And those people interbred with the original inhabitants there, and those were the first Aryan, and then of course the Indo-European people, or the Vedic. That's where the Vedic came from. So there's a difference. By the time the Vedic society came into being, I'm saying they had already evolved. Their religion and their language had already evolved beyond and changed from the original. Now, I don't need to be right about this. It feels this way to me. And so the who, now we get to who. What does who mean? Who is the interrogative, which is, again, is where you get who, what. So let me just, who, what, why, where, when, which. Those are the surviving ones. So you see that each one of those words has some kind of qualifier. There's the interrogative, which means trying to figure itself out. You're trying to figure something out. So when you try and figure something out, you say, who at? That's a thing. What? Who? W-H-O-O. Hua. I think the original was hua. That means what person? Why? That's, now the interrogative of trying to figure out what something is. Who which? Picking between two. Who en? In time. Who ere? Got it? So the beginning of any question is this interrogative, which is manifesting. This is what I'm trying to get at. This who sound means to manifest. So if it's What? It means manifested thing. Who means manifested person. Who air means manifested place in space-time. Got it? That's what who is. It's the root of manifestation. It is that which binds things into existence. Who binds things into existence. So in 3D reality, if you remember, what I'm saying is that what binds you to a specific anything is understanding that you really are just a probability. Remember we talked about this? You're a probability that just keeps manifesting in every nanosecond. And you determine the probability that you choose to become. This is happening on a deeply unconscious level when most humans don't have the ability to control that. You think you're just one solid person going through time, but you're not. You're a probability that manifests into a solid thing, and that keeps happening every nanosecond. So every nanosecond you have the capability of manifesting in a different probability. And those are going to be determined on the choices that you make, the attitudes and beliefs you choose to take on, and the actions that you use to based on that. So you are a creation, the karmic creation of the choices that you make in every nanosecond based on the probability that's pushing you towards that. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So that's what who is. Who is nothing more than any probability being manifested into a solid, specific something. Who, what, a solid, specific person. What, solid, specific thing. Why, a specific reason. When, time, a specific point in time. Where, a specific place in space-time. When you ask somebody, where's my apple, right? That's not going to be the same necessarily in another 5 seconds if there's an earthquake or if I move it. If there's an animal, you say, where's your sister? You could say, she's in her room. That's not a permanent thing. She's in her room right now, but she's not going to stay in her room. So when you say where, you're talking about not just a location, but a time. You get it? It's rooting something. But the root of that word where is who. All right, so that's what I learned about that. So the next part of Mother Earth's name, HUUL. This I'm not getting from any linguistic source. I have no idea. This word HUUL goes back beyond, I believe, any of our recorded, unless it's possible I haven't figured it out yet. But energetically speaking, I know what it is based on the meaning of the runes. So who is the interrogative binding something into existence? So the UL part of it. So the U again is descending power, and the L is Laguj. Laguj represents the deep waters, represents emotions, other things like that. In the Vedic tradition, the root La means earth. La, or the root Lang, which many people spell as Lam, which is actually inaccurate. It's actually Lang. Lang is the root chakra, and it means manifested on earth. So HU is the interrogative, manifesting. We could call it manifesting because it hasn't decided what it is yet. Because it's not who at or who or who ich or who er. It's just the process of manifesting. Right? So we now want to manifest into three-dimensional reality. So we then give it power, which is uruj, descending power. And we add to that El, or if we were to make a root, it would be La, the first name of Lakshmi. The name land, in English, land, land, it's the root. That's where it comes from. The word land in English comes from the root La, land. The ND sort of is like, the past tense of that manifested earth. Land. Manifested earth, right there. Okay, so we've got HUUL, process of manifesting. And then we have HUUL, which is descending to earth. That's one way we could say it. HUUL. So now you know, that is her name. That is the name of our mother. That has been her name, and this is, the thing about all language. Language has always been magical. And one of the reasons why the English language is one of the dominant languages on the earth, besides the history of it, is because it has elements of it that are incredibly old. And what is this error message I'm seeing? All right. That's one of the reasons why I believe that English is one of the major languages. And English has simplified itself over the years as a result of... the reason why English is so simple now is because when the Anglo-Saxons and the Vikings lived together, they shared a common language and they got rid of all the things that weren't syncretized. And so English is really a syncretization of Old Norse and Old English. And that's why it's such a simple language in comparison to other languages like Latin and Sanskrit and even Old English, classical Greek. Anyway, so this is my belief. I'm not saying this is the only name for our mother, but this is definitely one, and this explains why. What I was getting to was there's a thing in Vedic understanding which, and I'm quoting Vedic because Vedic is the only remaining Indo-European tradition existing. We don't know. The Druids, there's so much knowledge was lost when that tradition was lost. To be a Druid, you had to spend 20 years. You had to spend 20 years learning songs, learning poetry, learning magic, learning healing, learning meditation, learning ritual. You had to spend 20 years before you could say you were a Druid. That tradition is gone. We don't know it. We don't know what it was. And I forgot what I was saying about that. The reason why I quote the Vedic tradition because it's the only one left. And I was going to say something about whatever the Vedic tradition taught, and now a thing called name and form. So the reason why mantra is associated with deities is because when you chant a mantra, like for instance, if you chant, there's one mantra for Shiva, a seed sound, just Haum, Haum. We can get into that another time. But when you chant that, you're actually chanting a specific vibration, emanation of Shiva. And if you did that enough, with enough power, Shiva would appear in front of you in that particular form. And that is what people used to do. That's where mantra came from. Seed sounds were chanted from the beginning of time to manifest anything, something. And this is why in the Vedic mythology you hear about supposed demons who spend 1,000 years chanting to Shiva or chanting to Brahma or whomever, and they achieve siddhi, which means that they finally get the manifestation. Shiva appears in front of them. He has to, because somebody chanted the vibration of his essence and did it powerfully and perfectly enough that he had to manifest. And this is what yantras are. Whenever you have a yantra, real yantras like the Shri yantra and things like that, those are literally the transportation pads, because the symbols in there create a vibration. When the sound hits the carved symbols, it literally creates the etheric body of the deity. I believe that after the shift, we will actually create technology to speed that process up, so that you can just sit in front of whatever your device is. By the way, yantra means device. You can sit in front of your device and you can chant Haum once and Shiva will appear in front of you. I think that's coming. So when we chant HUUL, we are literally manifesting 3D reality. So for those of you who have been chanting this, now you know why it's so powerful. I didn't know until now. I didn't make this up. This was all given to me, and then I had to research it. And I'm in good company, because that's exactly what Einstein did. So Einstein's theory of relativity? Guess what? He didn't learn that because he went to college and figured it out. He actually was working as a clerk, and he was watching some workman doing something having to do with electricity, I don't know. And he had always had this question his whole life: can anything go faster than the speed of light? It was like the thing that he was obsessed with. And as he was watching some guy working with electricity, it dawned on him, and he saw. In his mind, he had a vision, and he saw how light works, which he later then had to go back to school and learn mathematics so that he could put it in mathematical language, E equals mc squared. So the point I'm trying to make is that even though I've done what I do, I need to do this. I need to go and research it and figure out what stuff means before it actually, makes sense to me. But these things have been coming to me, and I've been like, I don't know what that means. What is that? They're like, just do it. Well, I need to know what it is. So I spend years researching it so that I can then explain it. So what's ironic is we're on the verge of Mother Earth shifting. And I finally figured out, her, however long she's been in existence, I know now the vibration of her, who she is. So when you chant HUUL, and by the way, her color is blue. Her color is blue. The sky is blue. If you ever, one of the most beautiful things about the earth, go and research from a scientific perspective why the sky is blue. It's not because of the blue ocean. It's something altogether different, and it is absolutely amazing. And the blue light of Earth, when it shines out into the universe, as well as, during the day when you're walking around, you see the sun hitting you, but you don't realize you're getting hit by blue light that's bouncing off from the atmosphere. It's shining down. It shines out into space, but it also shines down on you. You don't see it because the sunlight overshadows it. But go and find out why that is. It's such a beautiful thing that she's constantly shining this blue light onto all of her children, all of her creation. Let's see, what is this? Okay. All right, so that is that. Have I said everything I want to say here? So the ironic thing is that I now know, and by the way, people, I think Dr. Greer said this as well, that when he went out into the atmosphere on ET craft and looked back at Earth, he could hear her sound. And he briefly does it in one of his videos, and it's almost identical to the HUUL sound. So this sound is emanating from her all the time, especially the first part. Ooh, that's her sound. But when she wants to make something tangible in physical 3D, it is HUUL. That is putting things into 3D. So what will happen is after the shift, it'll be easier. People will go into a meditative state and they will chant that. And if they want an apple, they will think apple. Then an apple will appear. Because you'll now be able to use this vibration to literally manifest something into 3D. You'll take something that's indefinable, you'll define it with the HUUL, that's defining the probability, and then the HUUL, which will bring it literally down to earth in physical manifestation. So, as I said, it's ironic because she's about to change her name. And I believe I know what that is. I was given another mantra. Those of you who are on the 90-day challenge, you already know what it is. I just uploaded it. I just uploaded what it is. I haven't explained what it is yet, which I will do in another video. And then soon, not too far from now, maybe in a couple of weeks or less, we will do a live stream where I will teach you this new chant. I will explain to you what it means, and we will do it. And we will do it specifically to give Mother Earth her new name. And that will mean her vibration. So that means out in space, instead of hearing her sound, which now all of the planets and all of the beings flying by, they hear her sound, which is ooh. That's what they hear. They're going to hear a different sound. Slightly different. And that will be her name. So her name right now is her function, which is manifesting in 3D space-time. That is her. That is not only what she is, that is what she does, and she is the master of it. And all of the beings of the universe, all of the stars, all of the planets, all of the people that are in the universe recognize that she is a mistress, a master of exactly this. All right. So that's it for what I'm going to say today. I'm happy to take any questions. If there are any questions, you can ask a question. Do so by writing the word question. You write the word question in all caps. Please pay attention. It bothers me when people don't do that. Write the word question in all caps and then just write your question. Please write in full sentences. I'm an old guy. I'm an old fart. I need to actually read entire sentences with structure and all that. Otherwise, I get cranky. You don't want to make this old man cranky. And if you have a feeling, an honest feeling, then you can share that as well. write the word feeling or honest feeling and share your feelings. Feelings are not opinions. They are, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm excited, I'm inspired, that kind of thing. So we've got Thundra says hello. She is one of my Vedic astrology certificates. You can go to her website, Thundra, THUNDRA.thunderwizard.com. She's got a bunch of other stuff that she does, and a radio personality as well. You can go check her out. There's Vincent.thunderwizard.com. He is also one of my Vedic astrologers, and he has a bunch of other services of his own. Vincent.thunderwizard.com. All right, what else? So that's so tarot. Request. I mean, I don't really respond to requests so much, but your question is, Mahadeva, could you please tell what the chant for Shiva is and the day of the snake you once shared? Well, that's on my channel. If you go looking for it, you'll find it. But you're talking about one of the specific mantras of Shiva having to do with the Lord of the Nagas. Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya Namo Nageshwaraya. Okay, there it is. Om Namah Shivaya Namo Nageshwaraya. If you want to say it, there's a little sing-song way you can say it, which actually helps it. Om Namah Shivaya Namo Nageshwaraya. Om Namah Shivaya Namo Nageshwaraya. It means I bow to Shiva, I bow to the Lord of the Nagas. There's another exact same word, two different pronunciations. Snake, Nag. Snake, Nag. Nag, Nak. It's the same word. Same word. See what else. What other? Nelly question. Where can I find the Celestial Qigong practice? You can't find Celestial Qigong on the Patreon or YouTube because you won't find it there. But you can go to celestialqigong.com and you can get I have to double check that. You can get a downloadable live streaming version of it, which is actually a great thing to do because it's the root of not only the spirit fighting, but is the root of the lightning Qigong. Yep, it's still there. celestialqigong.com. So, that was the first thing that I created. I synthesized from the spirit fighting all the way back 12 years ago. Called it Celestial Qigong. That's actually, I told you earlier that I ended up getting ghosted by my teacher. That's why. Because I went to him, I was a good student. I went to him and I said, hey, I've created Qigong. I had no idea how powerful it was. I said, based on some basic things within the spirit fighting. And I said, do I have your permission to make a video of that and sell it? And he said, yeah, go ahead. And then as soon as I did, he got so bent out of shape that he just broke off all contact with me. And still to this day hasn't told me why. But that's obviously why. So it was so powerful that it made my teacher run away from me. Which, by the way, was the best thing because I remember saying, I just wish he would go away because things were getting so crazy with him. And I got exactly what I wanted. I didn't have to leave him. He just disappeared. It was the best thing for my teaching. And nobody can take away what he did, by the way. He was the perfect teacher for me. Without him, I wouldn't have what I have. But it's time for me to move on. Tai Lakshmi Devi, question. What direction would I sit chanting Shiva mantra, and how do you spell the said mantra? That all depends on where the sun is in your chart. So the easiest thing to do is to face east because Shiva generally is a sun deity. So you can sit east and you would chant the mantra HUUL, H-A-U-N-G, HUUL. That is also very good because it is one of the seed sounds of the sun, and the sun is going to send a solar flash which will hit the earth. So by doing that, you're getting prepared for the solar flash, you're preparing Mother Earth for the solar flash, etc. Bone Man 538 just threw $10 at my feet. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Tai Lakshmi Devi, why is it Om instead of Om? That's a great question. You know, I have on here, do I have it? I'm going to find it for you because this is coming from me. I have to find it. I've got it up here somewhere. The website, if I can find it here, I'll tell you. I'm going to give up here in a second if I don't find it. All right, I'm giving up. I should get that. Should I? I think I should get that. All right, that's something else. So to answer your question, if you train with a real tantric yogic master, they will always give you seed sounds that end in NG. Always, every time. You'll hear people say the M is nasal. They're misunderstanding it. So it's an M that you never really close the lips, but you bring the tongue up to the roof of the mouth, which makes the NG sound. By the way, it is in fact the same as the rune. Okay, this is bugging me. Why is everything going so? Why is my computer going so slowly? Let's stop some of these things. Because my computer's flipping out. I can't take it. There's too much RAM. Okay. So hopefully you'll be able to see me now. Do I have to re-upload this? I can't tell if you can see me. I'm trying to find out if I'm stuck or not. So tell me if you can see me if I'm stuck. Yep, looks like I'm stuck. Okay, I'm going to have to come back in just a second here, so just hang on. So am I still on? Hopefully I'm streaming. It's not telling me if I'm streaming. But I think I am. I'm back now? Okay, I'm back. All right, good. So, whatever I was saying, I don't remember what it was. Anyway, I can't remember what I was saying. Oh, why is it Om and not Om? So that's why. It's and then whenever you see like the little dot, you know, when you see the Om written in Devangari script and you see the little dot, that little dot is an NG sound. So why is it? Because it is. It's just been misinterpreted, and the way it's written, people mispronounce it and misread it and think it's Om. And it's never been Om. It's always Om. Every seed sound. Om, Lang, Vam, Rang, Yang, Hang. All seed sounds end with an NG sound. All of them. And if you didn't know that, that's okay. Most people, even many people in India, many yogis in India don't know that. For some reason, I don't know. Anyway. Let's go back to where we were. Why is it Ong instead of Om? What else? Black Earth Productions question. What is your email address? It's been a bit and there are messages I need to send you directly. I will go on to, I don't want to give it out right here in front of everybody. I will give it to you, my friend, on I'll go to your channel and give it to you there. I may even have your email address somewhere. I don't know. Let's see what else. Phil Blanks question: what are your thoughts about fungal intelligence? So Phil Blanks, welcome to the channel. I couldn't be happier that you're here. I'm so glad that you've come onto the channel, and thank you for following my instructions on how to write a question. Now, having said that, I don't like that kind of question. It's lazy. You know, asking me what are my thoughts are about some huge thing. It's a lazy question. You obviously have some thoughts about it. You obviously like fungal intelligence. You've obviously looked into it and you're wanting me to sort of co-sign the thing you've already looked into. So two things are, first off, I don't like those kinds of questions. They're lazy on your end. I don't really know what to focus on. And the second thing is, the reason why it's boring for me is because I never talk about fungal intelligence. It's not that I'm not interested, it's just not something I've ever taught about. So it's good to ask me about things I teach, because then I'm going to be excited. And if you ask about things I teach, you will have looked at it, you'll have a specific question about it. I'm not saying people can't just give out questions, but anyway, welcome to the channel. Those are the kinds of questions I don't like. It's not really a question. What I really want is questions that are something that you really have a passionate desire to understand, which means there will be an emotional attachment to it, which means you'll be very specific about it. So when it's general like that, it tells me that it's not really, doesn't really mean that much to you. It's not that big of a deal. And it just sort of puts me in limbo. You know, it's like telling me, what do you think of Europe? Well, which country in Europe? You know what I mean? There's no shortage of countries. What do you think about the European language? Well, which European language? What are my thoughts about fungal intelligence? I don't know anything about it. So thank you. Welcome to the channel. I hope that doesn't bother you. Yes, my email is still the same, Black Earth Productions. Let's see what else. Okay, that was me when I was frozen. Tai Lakshmi Devi question: do I need a particular mala for the Haung? It's not Huang. If I said Huang, I said it wrong. It's not Huang, it's Haung. H-A-U-N-G. Do you need a particular mala? You know, the safe bet is always to get the Rudrakshas, the Eye of Rudra. It's a safe one. All right, so this guy named Rad Acosta, you can't see it because whenever you say something abusive and cuss words, YouTube blocks it out. And so he is coming on here saying abusive things. And we all get to laugh at him because he doesn't get the pleasure of you seeing what he's written. However, what I get to do is I get to block him forever. And this way, you know, by the way, Rad Acosta, I'm going to give you some free advice. Go spend your time doing something that's worthwhile to you. If you don't like my channel and you don't like what I do or how I do things, seriously, why are you wasting your time doing something that bothers you? So this is for everybody. You know, whenever somebody comes to me and says, and they wants to argue with me about something I've said or something I've taught, especially, you know, you don't know what you're talking about this. I'm like, don't waste your time arguing with me. Go onto your own channel. Go and make a video about what you think. Even make a video about how wrong I am. Do something positive with all of that. That anger that you're feeling, like Rad Acosta, I don't know who he is, but I already know that what he wants is he wants my love. He wants to connect with me. And he's hurt. I've done something that has stimulated old rejection from his childhood. And makes him want to attack me. I'm not your dad. So whatever your dad did to you, I'm not him. But here's what's going to happen here. Rad Colin, we are not going to ever have to listen to you abusing me ever again. And I think everybody should do the same thing. Never let anybody devalue you. The moment somebody consciously devalues me, they are out of my life forever. And so we're going to say goodbye to Rad Colin Acosta. See ya. And that's it. If he comes back in another name and he's respectful, I won't block him. But maybe he'll go off and just live his life and leave us alone. Let's see. Okay, Black Earth is going to contact me. Tai Lakshmi Devi, honest feeling. I'm feeling grateful for your answers. Thank you. You are so welcome. You know, we just saw that me getting rid of a devaluing person. I got nothing against the guy because I don't even know who it is. Whatever experience he had, whether I did something to hurt his feelings or he saw me, do something that he didn't like towards somebody else. I have nothing against the guy. I don't know him. And we're moving into a new phase where people will not be able to devalue other people. They won't be able to do it. That means me. I won't be able to devalue people either. So whatever limitations I do have, because sometimes I'm human. I make mistakes too. I won't be able to do it and get away with it either. So that kind of, going on there and just outright consciously devaluing me, attacking me, and criticizing me in a negative way isn't going to work. But you know what would have worked? Is if he had owned his feelings and shared his feelings in a way that was not destructive. If he had said to me, you hurt my feelings. You did this and this and it hurt my feelings. In fact, as I think about it, it reminds me of my dad who devalued me and didn't listen to me. You remind me of my dad. I'm angry with you. I would have embraced him as a brother. And we could have found out together if I had actually done something harmful or if I had just simply was something he was projecting onto. This is where things are going to go. Human beings are going to interact with each other in an empowering way, and people are going to have more and more strength when somebody devalues you without having to take it on and then fight back, which is, by the way, anybody who has believed or continues to believe that there are evil, false beings of light that are trying to harm you, that is a projection that if you owned it, if you could realize that your projection on the poor archons, who aren't false beings of light, they're not doing anything to you. That what you're doing is you're projecting onto them a hurt that has happened to you in your 3D physical life. Some human in your life did that to you. Probably the archons of your childhood, which were your parents. They literally were gods that had control over your entire life and death, everything about you, including your emotional needs. And so when your parents devalued you because they didn't listen to you, they didn't accept your feelings, you came looking for love, they rejected you, they ridiculed you, they shamed you. All parents do it to some degree, some a lot more than others. But when you own that that's what it's about, then you'll be able to have a good relationship not only with yourself, but with the rest of the universe. And this is where we're headed. This is why religion is going to come crashing down. And I shared with you my dream. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch. A few videos ago, I shared with you a dream that the light beings gave me, where they showed me that this event that will be coming very soon, I don't know I keep saying I don't know when. I think I do know when, but I'm not going to tell anybody because I don't think that's responsible. And I could be wrong. But when this event comes, what's going to happen is religion is going to be destroyed. And the reason why religion is going to be destroyed is because this new age, this new shift, will have within it love and valuing others, not devaluing. Right now, the whole world runs on who devalues who has control over whom. And that will go away. And the only way, like for instance, this is why CE5 is so great. Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind Protocol, because if you try and connect, forget about them responding to you. If you try and connect on a higher dimensional level and you have any kind of anger or fear, or you're seeking to control them or something like that, it won't work. It's like the connection won't go through. You know, remember when internet made that funny noise on the phone? You know, and it sometimes wouldn't click and wouldn't go through. That's what it's like. So you can't connect with higher dimensional beings if you're not coming from an authentic, vulnerable, transparent place. You don't have to be giddy happy. You can be afraid, you can be in pain, you can be sad, you can be all those things, but you have to own those feelings, and you have to be open enough to know what they are, and they'll meet you wherever you're at, as long as you're like that. But if you come at them with any kind of destructive, which is a devaluing thing, if you come at them, I got so angry last time because I was saying that people who have victim mentalities, you're committing violence against the whole universe. You walk around feeling like a victim, projecting that the universe is out to get you. You're causing violence to everybody. It's violent. And nobody likes to be on the other end of violence. Nobody. And so people who aren't violent, but not afraid, when somebody comes at them with violence, they just simply get out of the way and they don't have anything to do with them. I blocked this guy, Rad Colin Acosta, because he was being violent. And, you know, I don't have anything against him, but I just don't want that. I don't want to feel bad. Who wants to feel bad? I don't want to feel bad. I would love to connect with him on a real level, but he's unwilling or unable at this point. So there's no point in trying. I'm not doing him any favors by allowing him to abuse me and sitting there and taking it. All I'm doing is I'm co-signing his self-hatred that he's projecting onto me. We all do it. He's nothing unusual. He's not some horrible person. He's just a human being. I've done it. Everybody's done it. I just happen to be on the wrong end of it right now. I'm sure he's fine with everybody else. But we're all going to have to learn, and we're all going to have to move beyond it. Because this new shift has to do with Mother Earth. So I'll tell you, so far, my understanding of the definition of Mother Earth's new name. Her new name is going to shift from manifesting in three-dimensional space-time, HUUL. It's now going to change into manifesting in 5D. I'll save the rest for later. It's another syllable. I'm just going to add another syllable to that interrogative. And that's what she's going to be. She's going to be manifesting in 5D. And that will be her name. And that will mean when the shift hits again, if whoever's out in space, if they're flying around, they'll literally hear go from whoo to another sound. And they'll hear it. I mean, I'm willing to bet that there's going to be tens of thousands of ETs that are just going to be parked around Earth. And when the shift happens, they're going to be sitting there eating popcorn, waiting to listen to it shift. And when it shifts, we're all going to get up and clap. Woohoo! Yay! Congratulations, HUUL. You've now graduated. You've chosen to move on to the next level. Woohoo! I don't know who's going to take over the HUUL mantle, or if that's going to be a thing or what. I don't know. I know almost nothing. And even the stuff that I think I do know, I'm probably wrong on a lot of that too. So, Paradise Unlimited, honest question. How can we get rid of devaluing family members? I don't know. Do you live with them? First off, are you over the age of 18? If you are, move out. That's it. Move out. In-laws. Okay, so you're talking about in-laws. Well, so that means you have a spouse. They're the parents of your spouse. So you better be on the same page with your spouse about that. So if it's your spouse's parents and you want to get rid of them, you better see if your spouse wants to get rid of them too. And it's real simple. I mean, I think that people should try and work things out, but if some people are just abusive and they're not able, if you can't, go to counseling with them and try and, if they're not willing to go to counseling with you and try and work it out, that makes things difficult. You definitely should meditate on that. So here, let me say this. The first thing you ought to do, this might change things, by the way. First thing you ought to do is you ought to go into meditation. If you want to do CE5, your CE5 friends will help you. Go into meditation, ask your CE5 friends to help you connect with the spirit of your in-laws. Not their physical, their conscious 3D brain, which is where all the craziness is. Go to connect to their spirit. And then seek to see them for who they really are. Which when you do, you will see that at their essence, they are perfect beings of light. Just like all of you are, just like the guy I just blocked. He's a perfect being of light when he's not in his human brain. And same with me. When I'm not in my human brain, I'm a perfect being of light. So are you. So that's who they are. And connect to that part of them. Because you can. You can bypass their 3D human self. They're somewhere else in the next city and you're home meditating, connecting to their spirit. And you tell the spirit, you say, I really love you. And I think you're beautiful, amazing, and I want to connect with you, but your behavior is hurtful to me. And, I don't want to be damaged, and I don't want my spouse, and I don't want my children. I don't want them to be damaged by, your pain, because that's what it is. It's their pain. It's their unresolved pain. And you can say, I love you and I want you in my life. If you're willing to change, I would like for you to stay in my life. If you're not ready or willing to change, I'm going to have to disconnect from you. So you would never, by the way, never say that to them. Don't call them up and tell them that. Do not do that. That's only going to create more drama. You do that on a meditative level and then watch what happens. You might see them shift. You might see them change. They may not consciously get the message, but their spirit will. Now, maybe they won't shift, maybe they won't change. In that case, then you just find reasons not to connect with them. Move to another state, move to another city, definitely move out of their house if you live with them. And what this really represents is your inability right now to manifest your individuation. Your problems with your parents is your inability to individuate, and you stay codependently stuck to them because you want their love and their approval. So here's another thing that's helpful, is to realize that you do have a responsibility to those that bore you. You have to honor, the vehicle through which you came. You have to honor that. But at the same time, they have a responsibility to earn your love and your respect. I'm not related to you, so if I were to bump into you out in the real world, if I didn't earn your love and your respect, you wouldn't give it to me. You wouldn't go, what do I do about that guy I just met who I don't know anything about? He was really mean to me. And how do I get rid of him? Or how do I make him like, you would just go, that guy's an asshole. Don't have anything to do with him. So I learned this when I was a kid because, I had very sick, destructive, codependent, alcoholic family members. And I realized, I said, you know what? If these people weren't my flesh and blood, I wouldn't put up with them for half a second. And I decided then, the people who were my family were the people who earned it. And if anybody, my brother, my mother, my father, didn't treat me the way I would want to be treated out in the real world, then they didn't deserve to have me in their life. So I separated from them. And I stayed separated from them my whole life. I spent some time, as my dad was dying, I spent a little time with him. I've spent zero time with my brother since, 12 years ago he threatened to shoot me, and I said, that's it, I'm never seeing him again. And my mother passed away, and I didn't spend any time with her. I called her once or twice a year just to say, Happy Mother's Day or whatever, and she was senile, and she'd forget 10 minutes later. She'd say, when are you coming to visit? And I'd say, oh, real soon. And she'd get really happy, and then she'd forget 10 seconds later. And but since then, since I've been working with the light beings, I have reconnected with my mom. I've reconnected with her soul. I've reconnected with past life karma with her, and we have resolved that. We've communicated and interacted. I have a great relationship with my mom now. But she's my daughter, because that's what caused the whole problem. She was my daughter in a past life. And and I'm getting emotional about it, she was very hurt. And I didn't know that. These guys kept telling me. They were bothering me for days because I had some old feelings that come up, and I had gotten really messed up over how damaged I was, how badly my mother damaged me as a little kid. There was a couple specific events that were just unforgivable, and I couldn't get past it, and I was so hurt and I was so angry. And these guys were saying, your mom needs to talk to you. You got to talk to your mom. Would you just please talk to your mom? She really wants to talk to you. And I kept on saying, no, I don't ever want to see her again. And they're like, no, she really wants to talk to you. And I could hear my mom in the background saying, I really need to talk to you. I'm so sorry. We need to work this out. And they told me, they said, she was your daughter in a past life. You have to fix that. So I did. So the moment I said to her, so I was your father, boom, I felt her come, I felt her inside of me, her energy inside of me, and we had this long dialogue, and, I see her now as a past life version of herself. I see her as a, totally different person. She had dark, my mom had actually very dark brunette hair, but the little girl whom I damaged actually had blonde hair. And so that's who I relate to. I relate with that little blonde girl, and I nurture her, and I talk to her, and I play with her. And, it's completely, totally shifted things. So we're going to get into that space. So I think what's going to happen now is when people have bad relationships with family or whomever, we'll be able to connect to our friends, and we'll be able to go into past lives and fix all that stuff. Just like that. I mean, everything's going to change. It's going to be amazing. Anyway, so I hope that helps you. Those are my suggestions. I hope that helps. Phil Blank's honest feeling. So, Phil, I'd like for you to pay attention. A feeling is I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm confused, I'm inspired, I'm excited. A feeling is not an opinion. So, this is actually a passive-aggressive control move you just did. You just used what I said to you. I said, here's how you interact with me. You manipulated it and distorted it so that you could give an opinion. You haven't given one feeling. You said, fungi might be the light beings. That's not a feeling. That's an opinion. What you really want to say is, I like eating magic mushrooms because I've seen the light beings on magic mushrooms, right? That's what you really want to say. And instead of saying that, you want to pass by all of the things that I might say to oppose that. And instead of actually, sharing your feeling, you're going to dump your opinion. So, there you go. Why am I giving you a hard time? Welcome to the channel. I'm teaching you two basic things, which are the most important thing. I've been teaching it for years, and now it's more true than ever. In order to get the most out of your spiritual development, you need to operate from two different places. Number one is You have to have honest questions. Like, not like, do you think such and such? No, like a question is, how do I meditate? That's coming from a deep desire. People are asking me, can you tell me which direction to face and how to chant that mantra? They have a deep desire to connect to Shiva. Somebody wants to know which direction to face. Right? By the way, to answer your question on that, if you really want to know the best direction to face to chant to Shiva, you need to see your Vedic astrological chart. See what house and what sign the sun is in, and that will tell you what direction to face. And since you'll chant that mantra to Shiva facing that. If you don't know, then just face east, because that's the general direction of the sun. All right, fill blanks, so try again. The reason why is because you won't connect to the higher beings if you don't know how to do that. Unless you take mushrooms, which is the cheap way. Do you want to watch TV on the old black and white with the antennas? Or do you want to watch it with, 4K streaming HD large screen? That's the difference. If you do it without taking external chemicals, which is, you're eating a fungus. If you're doing it that way, you're going to be watching it on an old black and white television. If you do it through energy work and meditation, you'll get much better version. I don't take any external chemicals, and I'm in continuous interaction and communion with these beings. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I couldn't turn it off if I wanted to. And I'm 100% sober. Not 1 ounce of any drug or entheogen in my system. What else? Caleb Spears, honest feeling. When you psychoanalyze people, it feels like a lesson. It feels like a truth bomb. I always feel a little exposed myself in a good way hearing your thoughts on others. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. That is my intention. It's, because if I have you in a session, somebody pays to have a session with me. Now, I'm going to take a lot longer to get to the essence of it. It'll start with me asking you a lot of questions. And these questions are designed to get you to then start to verbalize and bring to your conscious awareness. And then you come to the conclusion yourself. I don't have to do it for you. But when you come on here, I only have a few minutes to answer a question. So I just have to go get the scalpel and just go straight to the problem. And that's just the way that I do things. It's meant to be helpful. And it's not, some people can't tolerate it, and I don't blame them. I don't know that I would want it. That's why I never give unsolicited advice to anybody. You have to ask. So if you come onto my channel, even if you dump your opinion, by definition, you are putting yourself in my teaching zone. You have given yourself permission for me to tell you what I see. And if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. Or you can follow my suggestions, only ask questions and only share feelings. And even then, you run the risk of me coming out with the scalpel because I only have a few minutes to get to the truth. Nella Nelly question, do you think the flash will play a role in the pole shift? I don't know if it's going to play a role in the pole shift. I think the poles are shifting anyway. So these guys have told me, and they did it once live, I was streaming, and they messed with the lights. When I was just starting to I just started off topic, mouth diarrhea, and I started talking about, by the way, the electromagnetic field on the planet is starting to weaken, and the lights went out. And then I said it again, the lights went out. And that was them letting me know that's very important. You have to focus on that. I didn't know that then. I didn't know anything about this shift that was coming or the pulse, or I didn't know about any of that. But one of the reasons why the ETs are able to interact with us so much strongly is because 3D Earth is no longer mid-yard, the middle fortress. It's now middle home. There's no fortress anymore. The electromagnetic field has weakened, which means that other spiritual energy can come and hit us. And we can interact with spiritual energies much more easily than before. The veil between the physical and the higher dimensions has been weakened considerably. And so this will have a huge effect on the ability of the pulse to reach us. So that's another way to look at it. The electromagnetic field is weakening because Mother Earth is opening herself up for this new shift that's coming. It's possible that if the magnetic field was strong, then it would be, the middle fortress again, middle yard, mid-guard, then that pulse might not reach us. So I'm just giving you other opportunities to look at it. So you're asking me, a scientific question, which I may not have the answer to, but do I think it will play a role? I think they all are interconnected in some way. What causes what? That's a whole other question. Creative Virgo on is feeling always amused by your sound effects and acting. Not only am I grateful for your sharing, so too your lighthearted style as well as your calling out anyone's wrongdoing. Well, I'm glad. I was, Creative Virgo was on some of the most harshest tongue lashings I've ever given. And so it's a testament to her that she still stuck around and followed my directions. Because sometimes I would just be like, you need to get, and I'm telling her what to do. And to her, I don't know that I'd have the strength to do it if somebody talked to me the way I talked to her. Let's see, what else? Okay, so Paradise Unlimited looks like I helped you. Tai Lakshmi Devi, question, my Vedic sun sign is Taurus. Okay, so that doesn't tell me anything. So you need to get a reading. It's not your Vedic sun sign. That's not what I'm saying. I said where your sun is placed, in what sign and in what house. That's not Western astrology. You're talking Western astrology here. This is Vedic astrology. I'm not going to do your Vedic reading for you online. I don't have the time. If you want to pay for it, you can go to astrology.thunderwizard.com and you can get it from me or any one of the some of my astrologer people who've been certified by me charge a lot less than I do. And once you know where your sun is and what sign it's in, you'll know exactly which direction to face and what offering to give the sun. Okay? So, I believe in people putting the time and effort into learning something, and so I think you should do that. This is valuable. You should sacrifice and get that from somebody, in my opinion. You can do whatever you want. Or you can just go online and learn Vedic astrology and learn that, and you'll, if you do enough digging, you'll probably find out. Although it'll probably be hard to figure out exactly, what direction and what to offer. That comes with some pretty specific knowledge. Anyway, that's it. I don't see any other questions. All right, so before we go any further, before we end things here, let me go ahead and do a little business. So we have been uploading to the 90-day challenge some very powerful stuff. I've already uploaded the mantra for the Earth. I haven't explained what exactly it means, but it is her new name. Those of you who have access to it, you already know what it is. Don't spill the beans yet. And there's other things coming. I have some other stuff I'm going to upload to that. I think I'm probably going to upload a lot of stuff before the shift happens. And I don't know, maybe when the shift happens, we won't even need this channel anymore. I don't know. So go to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong at thunderwizard.com. Subscribe. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe whenever you want. It's only a monthly subscription, and it's less than what you would pay if you buy yourself a coffee every day. It's almost nothing. And if you want to see all of my books, all of my other services, you can go to courses.thunderwizard.com, courses.thunderwizard.com. And if you want the high-level energy practice that goes into 5D. You can do maoshan.thunderwizard.com. But if you want the 3 energy practice that I give, the unified energy system, which is Qigong, life force energy, gets the cells of your body up to a higher level, again, getting ready for the shift. Kundalini, which is extremely important for your consciousness. You'll get Kundalini energy practices combined with the Qigong, and then combined with that also you will have the lightning Qigong, which is the heretofore secret, unknown energy in the heart center, which surrounds the Shen. It's not the Shen, it surrounds the Shen, which is the heart, the soul. There's a lightning energy, a feminine lightning energy that surrounds that when you tap into that, you can release it outwardly. This will shift you directly into higher dimensional energies, and I believe that's where we're going to be at, once we hit that. So the Shin energy will be a household name, whereas right now almost nobody knows about it. It'll be a household name, and when you combine all 3 of these energies, this is going to be a daily practice for people after the shift. That's my firm belief. Anyway, I'm sure I'm going to be alive long enough to continue to teach this and get this out and teach my entire knowledge to somebody before my goal is, I am not going to physically die. I am going to continue doing my work until I can shift into the next dimension. We'll see if I pull that off or not, but I think it'll be a lot easier. I didn't think I was ever going to be able to pull that off, but with the way things are going, I think it's going to be a lot easier coming later. Anyway, so I've wasted enough time seeing if there are any last minute questions. Nope, that's it. We're all done. Thank you so much, my friends. I love you with all of my heart, as difficult as it is for a tough guy like me to say that. I love you deeply with all of my heart. I want nothing but your greatest happiness, your highest expression of yourself. And if nothing else, just do some kind of energy work. There's free energy work on the channel. And do some kind of meditation, because when you meditate and do energy work, you help me. And if you want to give back to me, go do that for yourself. Make yourself the most happy, most empowered person you can be. And by doing that, you will help me and you'll help these guys. They will appreciate it also. All right, that's it, my friends. I wish you all the best. Thank you so much. I will see you all very soon.